Do you know the number one liability exposures that the self-storage owner has in the self-storage business? My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Self-Storage Quick Start Academy. I support people who are getting in the self-storage business, and I support people who want to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. And we are in a series of the 5 things not to do as a self-storage owner. And the number one liability that the storage owner has is wrongful disposition. But as we move through the 5 things not to do today, and I know this is not the most motivating episodes that I have ever created, believe me, I know it. But it's probably one of the more important series of episodes I've ever created, because if you run your business right and avoid these things, you are going to have a long, profitable, fun, fulfilled career in this industry. It's when you have to deal with all this stuff that some people in business have to deal with, that's when it gets bogged down and not fulfilling. Follow these 5 steps and don't do these things, you won't get bogged down in that world of unfulfilling activity that really saps your resources, your energy, and your fulfillment. So I want to cover 2 of them in this episode real quick. And both of these are around disposition, doing auctions incorrectly. So before we get into the 3rd item of what not to do you remember the first one? That's right, SERA, Service Members Civil Relief Act. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and review. The 2nd item was never create a bailment. Again, if that's foreign language to you, go back and review. The 3rd item is a change of address without the proper paperwork. What? A change of address without the proper paperwork. Now, I know that sounds silly, and I know that sounds stupid, but I cannot tell you the number of attorneys who, when someone gets upset about their goods being auctioned and they call the attorney will get the file, and the very first thing they look for are all the correct forms. And what they look for, number 1, is to see if the notification of the auction was sent to the same address as the address that's on the contract. If the notification was sent to a different address than the address that's on the contract, and there is no change of address paper form in that file, guess what? That is an invalid auction. That, I know it sounds simple, I know it sounds silly, but here's the thing. If you don't have a change of address form and the notification goes out to a different address that's on the contract, you now have an invalid auction and you are open up to all types of liability, as well as replacing the cost of the goods that are sold. Now, this presupposes that you have a change of address form. So what I would do is, if you don't have one, get one. Get with your state association, or get with your national association, or get with your attorney, and make sure you have a change of address form. And make sure that you or your managers are well trained in how to use and when to use that form. If someone walks in and says, I've moved, I've got a new address, you have to get that form filled out. If someone emails you and says that I've moved, here's my new address, thank them, but reply back and say, I can't change it in the computer till you fill this form out and attach it. Always, always, always have a change of address form and use it. It's simple, but it can mean the difference of thousands and thousands of dollars in a lawsuit for being sued for a wrongful disposition. And remember, that's the number 1 liability exposure that a self-storage owner has, is wrongful disposition. Now, the next item I would like to cover, the 4th item in the series of 5, is granting someone access to a unit who's not on the contract and who has not been specified as someone who has access to the unit. Now, I can hear you out there right now. Why? Because I heard myself say, well, I'd never do that. And then I thought a minute. If I hear someone say, well, I've never done that, or I would never do that, that tells me that you've never run a self-storage facility. Because if you have run a self-storage facility, you know that there are countless, time and time again, someone comes in and really needs access to that unit, and you get it. It's a good story. They do need to get into that unit. All kinds of bad things will happen if they don't get in there. But you've got to look, and you've got to see if they're a party to the contract. If they're not a party to the contract, have they been named in the contract as someone who can have access to that unit? Now, just because someone is married and that spouse or husband has dowry rights in the state you're in, that does not give them the right to enter the unit if they're not named on the contract. Let the husband or let the wife deal with the other spouse. Don't you get in the middle of that. They're not on the contract, they don't get in. I can think of numerous situations where people have granted access to a spouse only to find out that they are separated or they're going through a nasty divorce, and that spouse has taken all kinds of stuff from them, and it was the storage owner's fault. You'll even have them come in. If you haven't had this yet, it will happen. You will have a spouse come in and say, my husband has died, or my wife has died, and I need to get in the unit, but they're not on the contract. Guess what? You can't give them access to that unit. Find out what the laws are in your state about how to deal with deceased customers. But in most states, that spouse, if they're not on the contract or they're not named as someone specifically who has access to the unit, they have to produce a document naming them as executor or executress of the estate. And in many states, you have to have a valid death certificate before you can open that unit up and let someone in there. Once you open a unit up and grant access to someone who's not a party to the contract or not named in the contract, you have opened yourself up to a world of potential hurt and a lot of liability. That's why it is the number 4 thing not to do, because it happens that often. You follow these simple rules, you will have a fantastic business, and you will create true wealth and a fulfilling career in the self-storage industry. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. It is a fantastic financial analysis tool for people getting in the self-storage business or people who are buying, building, or expanding self-storage facilities. We use it every day. Thank you. You can find out more about myself, what we offer, and the Storage World Analyzer at creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com or the storageworldanalyzer.com. I'll see you later.